Good afternoon, guys. This is Zach with TrueFit. I'm here with my two amazing partners, Rob and Neal from .fit. We're going to kind of do a little different setup for today's call. We're going to still take a bunch of questions from everybody, but I wanted to kind of dig in today as we start getting back into the gym this next week. Here in Texas, we are reopening next Monday with some restrictions that we're happy to adhere to get everybody back into the health and wellness industry. What we wanted to focus on today is kind of split it up into what are some things that we want to really convey to our employees and those in the world of health and wellness. And then what we want to kind of convey to some consumers as they get back into the swing of things. And what are some pitfalls and some success stories that we can kind of share with everybody to make sure that they aren't jumping on board a little later than normal this year because of everything, that they start off on the right foot. So first, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you guys, Rob and Neal. Thank you for kicking this Tuesday off the right way.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to yeah, absolutely, guys. And I wanted to start with a little bit of background. I know we've done this a bit, but I kind of wanted to take a little bit different scope where, Rob, I'll kind of start with you. Kind of give me the quick kind of timeline of the positions you've held in the health and wellness world and kind of what made you kind of stair-step your way to where you're at now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Neal's like, wait a minute, but it's funny because I can actually, he's going to be very much included in my timeline for sure. But I'm old now. I graduated college in '95, exercise science, or teacher certification, wanted to teach kids more about health and fitness. And as soon as I got out of college, I ran into my local Gold's Gym, and they actually had this 12-week program that was designed to help people with all the things I wanted to actually learn about when I went to school, which was really, to be a little technical, but body composition change. Like I always say, in my bachelor's, I never learned one thing in exercise physiology and everything else about how to actually put lean body mass on or lose body fat, never mind lose weight. So I ran into this program that was called Apex Fitness that was actually created by Neal, who we're going to hear from in a few minutes here. And I went to a 5-day school, and it was everything I always wanted to learn about in school. And I always laugh and joke, and it's funny to have Neal on the call, but we got more nutrition in the first day than I did in my bachelor's. And later I got a chance to actually do my master's. I still got more in that one day. And from that moment, I was hooked. I was hooked on this program of integrating multiple facets between nutrition, exercise, supplementation, and being the right coach to be able to help people get to their goals. So I was in Apex, ran programs in Connecticut, where I'm from, went down to Florida, ran some stuff down there. Then I was lucky enough that Neal and his team saw something in some goofy little kid and decided to bring me on full time. They actually moved me out to Southern California, and I was working with a bunch of our clubs out there. And then Neal actually, back in the early to getting to be mid-90s, actually purchased the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And the resistance training was always one of my real big passions. So I transitioned over to NASM and was an instructor with them for years, had a great time. And then I actually got the opportunity back in 2005 to go back into the trenches, if you will. And I joined a health club chain with a very good friend of mine and helped grow that company from 5 locations when I started to 23 locations, and wound up having to sell in 2015. And then I was really excited. I got a chance. Neal opened his arms back up and said, come back to the family. And I've been back with .fit for the last 5 years. So been a wonderful journey. And, it's really neat to see it from all perspectives, though, from, starting off when you don't know what you don't know, to then you're getting a much better idea of what you know and what you don't know, to then going back into the trenches and then coming back here. So been a great time.
I think that's something where, for my part, always to walk into a club and really do what they're telling you to do. I was blessed to play some minor league baseball. And it was always easier to take advice from somebody who could literally walk up to the tee and show you exactly what they were talking about. Neal, I kind of want to, I know your list of accomplishments, and I think our crew is very well aware of them. I kind of wanted to take your route a little differently, where what do you feel like some of the positions that you started off in the health and wellness industry, which ones have yielded the most impact to you now? Which are the ones that you still use some of those skill sets that maybe you've done throughout your career?
Well, I mean, for me, I've been that kind of psycho guy that tried to change the industry. You know, I mean, the industry has been a place where where athletes go to exercise back all the way up until the 60s. And then we opened the doors to the public, with your spas and your lifetime memberships and all that. And it was just a place to exercise, and people would quit because they never got to their goal. So for me, I've always been that pain in everybody's butt that would just try to drive the conversation differently. If you're going to call yourself a health and fitness facility, then you can't call yourself health without the nutrition piece. You can live without exercise. You can't live without nutrition, as we know now, of course. But the point is that so I always pushed that. So there was never anything that I liked about the original model of a health club. It was great for, I was a bodybuilder. I competed for 18 years and actually one of the better bodybuilders in the country. So and I started with Gold's Gym. And there was only one with Venice. So I became part of the Great Eight that blew the brand up around the world. And I put the nutrition program into Gold. So that's how it started. And then from there on out, we went off. And Apex merged into 24 Hour Fitness, and Mark Mastrop and I became partners. And Mark really mastered, and a lot of the guys that own TrueFit are all Mark disciples. He mastered the ability to take the integration of nutrition with personal training across 435 clubs. And when we sold the clubs, we sold them for $1.7 billion, and 700 million was the nutrition component, to give you an idea of the contribution margin that he gave to the whole thing. Not to mention, all the success the clients had, and that's the reason it was. The retention increased by significantly all the way around. So that was it. I've always tried to push that conversation. I'm not going to stop. And the good news, is that people are finally getting it. And so your better clubs like TrueFit have adopted the holistic approach, so that members just don't come in and work out and see nothing's happening and leave. So that's really the thing that I've been driving that since day one. And, there really isn't anything else there. I think that a lot of people try it, but other people don't implement it or hold people in their gym accountable to doing it. And when you do, people get things that they want. Everything works for everybody, not just for the staff, but it works for the members, and it works for the club. So that's the hard thing to do. And that's the problem that I still see out there very often. Everybody wants to do nutrition. Who wouldn't want to put nutrition in their club? I mean, something wrong with you if you didn't want to. So of course you want to, and we know it's the right thing to do, but we have to hold people accountable to do it. And that can probably get to further on in the conversation about what should people be doing now to further their education going into the next generation health club. Because guess what, Zach? People are listening now about nutrition.
Yeah. Well, and what's
these
funny
people,
to me is
these people that are vulnerable, that's happening to these people that are getting sick from all this are the people that have not taken care of their body.
And I think what's interesting to me is when you think about any company that is successful, it's always based on results. And if you take that micro level of our own programs, none of us do anything well without nutrition, resistance, cardio, and it's that cross-training mentality. But then when you get to the macro, they try to fine tune it so much and almost pigeonhole themselves in certain industries or companies where they're like, we're just going to focus here. And I think that's just such a disservice. And that's why it's so nice to talk to you guys when you talk about programs. And I thought one of the best statements I heard you sell is, we don't sell supplements just like you don't sell training. It is an all-inclusive program. And when one huge major piece is missing and those results don't happen, nobody thinks that you're successful no matter how many gym memberships you sell. It's a short-term mentality. And I throughout this process, I've been able to watch a ton of Netflix, and you watch the West Side Barbell Cats, and you watch all of the CrossFit guys. And most of the conversation is around their nutrition. And people underestimate what they have to do as an athlete or as a person who works 15 hours behind a desk. That aspect, I don't feel like people understand, is universal across the stage, no matter what you're trying to accomplish. But like you said, now that it's come to the forefront of certain things are going to impact people who are less healthy, now it's not just, oh, you have to be healthy in a gym. You have to be healthy because of what might come at you that you're not expecting. And we're all experiencing that right now.
Yeah, good point. Good point all the way around. And the people like in the movies that you watched or CrossFitters, they talk about their nutrition because they're in the gym an hour and a half a day, and then the other 22 they take care of themselves. They know what to do, but 99% of our members have no clue what to do to satisfy what their body needs after they work out. I'm good with them when they're in the gym. It's when they leave the other 23 hours of the day that we've got to make sure they have a roadmap, because otherwise they're going to start Googling stuff. And I set out to save people from the internet, save them from themselves, so having to go up there and Google everything to find out the latest fad diet or something.
If you know everything, you know nothing. I'm having a hard time with my kids doing this because there's no answer that they don't have at their fingertips, which is such a weird thing for an individual where they don't search things out themselves. They don't play devil's advocate. They just see things, they hear them, they ingest them, and they go.
Right.
And that's where I think, our partnership works so well for us, because it's not that it takes the guesswork out, but it's individualized, but it applies across the whole group where you don't have to talk vague to people. And I think that's kind of where I wanted to go next, was this vague attitude towards health and wellness, where it's, we're going to appeal to the masses. I think is something that's really done a disservice to people inside of the facility that we run, because they are comparing themselves to other people and they don't know all the intangibles of that person, their background, their health history, their injuries, their goals. And I think that's really important when we paired with you guys, is your recommendations are based off of all those things. So if Rob, you can kind of speak to how this essentially individualizes programs for people, and it allows them, and we use the same rule you guys use, the 168-hour rule, where I only see you for 3 or 4 a week and there's 168 in a week. So we've got to help you outside the club more than inside the club.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you guys just spoke about it, of course, but the challenge is what we've seen so often, and guys, tell me if I'm incorrect, but most times growing up in the health club world and gyms like the three of us have, and many on this call, we've seen it before where a member who has thought about joining for 6 months to 3 years finally gets up the courage to come in. But again, they've been exposed to something that's super simple, reading something in the grocery line checkout that says all you need to do is walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. Nowadays, they're looking at Instagram while they do it. They do 1 circuit of resistance equipment. And I always say it's great that they burned a whopping extra 43 calories that they wouldn't have burned if they didn't do that today. But now they justify that they worked out. So they say, hey, I worked out today. Let's go have chips and margaritas with the girls tonight. And they wind up putting on more weight after they join the club than beforehand. And to us, that's the kiss of death, right? Because we know we need our members to get results, to stay doing something that they probably didn't love until they started to see results. So we got to get them addicted. And Neal talks about this, and I've learned all this from him through all the years, but we have, this is my opinion, we have 2 to 3 weeks tops to help you as a member start to see some change. And granted, there's a percentage of you that are watching that would, forget wearing a mask to come work out. You guys would wear a suit of armor if that's what the rules would be for you to actually work out, because you're just diehards. But remember, there's the other 95% of the population that's scared to death. So we're always trying to reach them and say, we got to have a reason for you to be able to stay. So our goal, again, is individualization and customization, because everybody is different one way or another. And we might have similarities in programs, but still we want to really customize that for the person. So that's again where take the guesswork out. And like Neal said, we want to use a roadmap. And Zach, you've heard me use this analogy before, but I always like to say we want all of us, TrueFit.fit combo team, we want to be that fitness GPS for you. So if you take a wrong turn, we reroute you. Doesn't mean you go home and you quit. We'll get you there. So, I don't know anybody's life, including mine, that's a straight line though. And that's why we're here to constantly keep coaching you every step of the way.
Yeah, that all or nothing mentality is detrimental to not just people who want to come in as a consumer and make changes in their lives, but it's also detrimental to my staff and people who work in the industry. And I'm sure you guys have seen that, where we've changed our approach to where it's not screaming focus at somebody and expect them to be locked in for 10 hours a day. It's about refocus. And we say that dozens of times a day. And we've been following a lot of leaders throughout this process. And Coach Corey Close from UCLA women's basketball team really spoke to us on a leadership summit. And she just said something very simple. And she said, I have a hard time as a coach focusing for an hour at a time. Why would I expect my athletes to focus for 3 straight hours and scream at them from a soapbox when I can instill in them this mentality of refocusing every single time they get off course? And I think I can correlate that to our members where, man, if I miss today, I might as well miss tomorrow. Or if I had 1 piece of cake, I might as well have 3. And they lose that refocus mentality. And I think that's where we're really trying to preach lifestyle and part of just your weekly routine, and whatever that capacity is for you, let's push to that capacity. And that can change on a daily basis. If you don't got it all today, give me what you got. And I think that's where I really try to push with not just our clients, but our staff about burnout. And Neal, if you can speak to that a little bit on how consistency is key here, and not going all out and working out 7 days a week and trying to change your whole world if somebody's motivated to get back into the gym on the 18th. What's some things that you try to really preach that keeps them consistent when somebody starts out?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's the single thing of always making a plan and then challenging yourself to finish it, and write stuff down. I mean, if you don't write things down, but if you write it down, you really feel guilty if you don't do it. And don't be unrealistic, be realistic. And that's why it takes fitness professionals like the ones you have to be able to help people set these goals. We can set these goals based on your lifestyle, based on what will fit. And our job is to lower the motivation threshold to keep you involved. Otherwise, you have to be so highly motivated to continue to work out. That's why people fail. That's why 90% of people gain weight back after they lose it. But our job is to make it easier for you. Make it easy, bite size, baby steps, and then it progresses. And like Rob said, my goal originally, this goes back in the early 80s when I started the first nutrition program in a gym in Venice. It was real simple. It was, hey, you know what? We're just going to I'm going to give you a plan. You're going to follow it. And this is what you're going to do. And then from there, you'll be able to, I will get you addicted to fitness, because that's my job. My job is to get you addicted. And I've got about a week to 2 to get it done before. And this is when people were just coming. The front door was, the back door was bigger than the front door in gyms at this point. They were coming as fast as you got them. They were leaving because they thought the gym was the magic potion. That was it. And of course they found out it wasn't. It was what they did when they went outside there. So that was the point. I mean, you have baby steps. And then I also, if you make a plan and you'll help yourself stick to it, but don't make it too hard within the parameters of your life. And that's why it always takes a great fitness professional to be able to lay that out and make it easy and have that conversation with you.
We've really pushed the calendar.
Zach,
I know that's old school, but
that too.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely, Rob, get in there.
If you don't mind, this is something that, believe it or not, I actually got this from Dave Ramsey, the guy who's like, I'll get you out of debt.
Yep.
And what I want to correlate is the more often you win, the more you stay motivated, right? So let's take an example though, that if you have a client that wants to lose 25 pounds, 50, 75, 100 pounds, unfortunately, most times they don't think they won until they lost the 25, 50, 75, or 100. And as we know, if they start off, they're pretty motivated just because that pain versus pleasure thing got them in the club. But a lot of times that starts to wane. And maybe they lose 13 pounds, but in their mind, they're supposed to lose 50 and they're a failure. So what we always like to do, and you could do this with our program, is let's just use a number like 50 pounds. If you wanted to lose 50 pounds, let's set 5 10-pound goals at a time. So that way, hey, my first goal is losing the first 10 pounds. And that way, when you get there, we win. And it keeps that psychology and that motivation of saying, I can do this, right? And how many times, Zach, I know you've seen this before, but maybe a client did want to lose 50, but they lost 32, just using that as a number. And they feel like, oh, I'm a failure because I didn't lose it. But we're like, you're 32 pounds less than you were before, which is significant. Like, you're still a totally different person. We just have to keep our eyes on the prize, but take those long-term goals and break them up into shorter goals. And, again, we do that with the program, but obviously we do that with training and everything else we do. So super important in my personal perspective.
No, I think the small successes are what keeps people going. We're, as a leadership group in TrueFit, we're reading a bunch of books together and trying to really fine tune our craft. And one of them is the Can't Hurt Me book by David Goggins. And he talks about the small successes. And when he wants to lose 100 pounds, that seems daunting. We don't give ourselves the same leeway we do in every other area of our lives by going step by step. Fitness is one of the few things where if you don't get what you got right away, you feel unaccomplished. I really preach to my guys, even from an assessment perspective. If somebody's never done a push-up before, put them on a TRX, show them how to do an elevated push-up, give them a high five and say, when was the last time you did a full push-up? You know, getting in that success mindset, like you said, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, we can't really motivate people. We can inspire them to motivate themselves. And that's through successes and the tools that you guys have partnered with us for. But if they don't become intrinsically motivated, that one day they don't feel like coming into the gym, or that one day that run looks a little worse, or it's a little too hot, or it's a little far out of their way to get to a gym because theirs might be closed, that motivation goes away. So I think with that 168-hour rule, and like you guys do, we preach calendars till we're blue in the face. We're old school. Like if you don't know what you're doing on a daily basis, even if it's rest today, that still needs to be dictated out. And that process of having a plan, like Neal said, I think, especially in those first 2 to 4 weeks, I think is the difference between somebody who feels successful and somebody who doesn't, just because they know what to measure.
Yeah. And hey, Zach, if you don't mind, if I can piggyback on that for a quick second. This is a plug, but obviously, like, we wouldn't stand behind something if we just didn't truly believe it. But another organization that we're very, very close with, one of our sister companies, is an educational company called PTA Global. And it's a certification agency and obviously continuing education for fitness trainers. And one of the things that I think really makes that unique is they teach fitness professionals how to ask their clients on a daily basis a series of questions to find out how prepared they are for the workout that day. In other words, like stress levels, hydration, rest, all those things. And they have a scoring system. So if you've just been spent and you're on empty and you show up though, because I don't want to disappoint Zach, whether again, it's virtually or live, but man, I just don't have it today. Well, they have a way then on how we're going to do more of a recovery workout. So that way we are making sure the workout is in tune with you. On the other hand, if you're scoring high in all those things, in other words, like green light, go, then we're going to get after it. But as we know now, and Neal can attest to this, for seeing how the gyms have grown in the ages, you know, we all kind of even grew up in this, but the old day and age of no pain, no gain, we just know that's not the case anymore. And even with professional sports, they know now that you don't do that, right? But just something unique again that, you know, is another great tool. You're not always going to be on a full tank of gas every single workout. So these are other ways that we're trying to provide educational tools for fitness professionals.
Well, and I think that hits both of the burnout, where your client doesn't get burnout because they're not crawling out of the gym every day. And that's not what they feel is success when they're, you know, I think that was a lot of athletes kind of revert to the opposite direction. We're like, why don't you run? Well, because I was made to run until I puked on a daily basis. So now I don't want to run anymore. But also from an employee's perspective, if they don't have a place to go continue their education and figure out ways to impact people, they get burnout because they feel like they're not successful in getting their clients results. I think that's one of the main things that we see from a personal trainer perspective, is with you guys, we've really tried to pair that continued education piece. And I think that's something that's lost, where I'm a trainer now, I'm a trainer, and I'm a trainer forever. No, that's not the case. I think if Neal, you can kind of speak to the evolution of what a personal trainer is and what you've seen lately that maybe has been more impactful as people are starting to make this all-inclusive program and become that real personal trainer, not just somebody who sees somebody on a Tuesdays and Thursdays, see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, historically, you know, personal training was that, you know, was the biggest guy in the gym back in the 70s, right? And it was basically taking somebody through a workout who wanted to be like that or thought that they had to know more than anybody else. You know, obviously we've evolved well past that into certifications, you know, accredited certifications with people really understanding how the body should actually move rather than just putting you under heavy stuff. you know? And so that was the first evolution of personal training was the certification. I was fortunate enough to be the owner of NESM. So we raised the bar above everybody. Everybody was just a book and a test. We raised it up and we made it completely different where we, had live courses, took trainers through things. So they were actually learning stuff, and hands-on, almost serving an internship. That's how complicated we got. Now all the other ones are doing a lot like that. So don't get me wrong, they're all good too, but we had moved the bar up. So that was my first foray into that world of training. I wanted to change the trainer certification mindset of people. If a trainer's certified, they know what they're doing. Okay, the medical community didn't believe that. They wouldn't send people to a gym. They were afraid of, they didn't know what they were doing. But now we have that credibility. So that was sort of the beginning of it. And the other reason was when then integrating the nutrition component. And as Rob knows, that took me 10 years and $10 million to be able to take that nutrition program and evolve it so I could put it in the scope of practice of trainers. So you didn't have to be a dietitian because we knew our members weren't going to go see a dietitian, for $150 an hour, after they joined the gym. That wasn't going to happen. So and it was unfair for us not to be able to give them something. So I spent a long time, getting licensed throughout the United States to be able to put a program that's written by our dietitians. I have plenty that work for me, and then, put it all together. So it's all controlled, for health and everything else. And it's, passed off through the trainer. And that changed the world then, right at that particular point. And that's the continuing education. That's the part that trainers that can master that and trainers that are willing to do that, like Rob, you end up, the career's unlimited. You're now what I call three-dimensional rather than one or two-dimensional. You are a three-dimensional trainer. You have the package. And I always say this, and this is a big one for me, and that is that trainers, my trainers that are three-dimensional, my practitioners, and I have 40,000 of them around the world, they are the first line of healthcare. They are health. We take care of people's health when they have it. Now, you can't be that if you're an exercise instructor. If that's what you do, you can't be that. But you are, the current healthcare model that we're in is called disease care. It is after the fact. That is the model that we're in. Healthcare means that we take care of your health while you have it. And most of the people that come into our club are fairly healthy, and we're giving them the exact plan how to stay healthy for them and their families. So I always like to say that we are the future of healthcare. We will be the big front lines of it forever, but you have to have that holistic approach. And that's what I want the communities around your gyms to know, that we are your fitness resource, your complete fitness resource. That's what we are. We have the right talent in here. Our trainers are all certified for this. And that's why, again, I do a horrible thing that a virus had to get people to start thinking about nutrition now. I don't know if you know, the supplement industry has literally doubled overnight. We can't even get raw materials. You can't get anything. Everybody in the world is all of a sudden taking it, and not for the right reasons as far as I'm concerned. We need the whole thing, but the fact that people are now just kind of jumping around at it. So the point is that they're getting the idea that nutrition is important, and I think now that is going to be the future, and that's the continuing education I'd like to see all trainers get.
Yeah, we talk about how we are proactively saving people's lives all the time, and I think that's understated because I have a bunch of friends in the medical field like you guys do, and they retroactively either cut on somebody or fix them, like you said, after the fact. And I think that's something where, I grew up a very unhealthy kid. I had a lot of health issues until I was about 15. And I always tell my team, I'm like, hey, I take this cheesy, but it saved my life. Like fitness and good nutrition. When I tell my guys all the time, like I was allergic to soy, beef, dogs, cats, dust, had skull surgery when I was 5 weeks old, had asthma, was like bubble boy. And I met a chiropractor in Blue Springs, Missouri, who was an amateur bodybuilder. And he started working with me when I was 12. And I did my first back squat when I was 21, like without a brace or anything. So I tell everybody, like it proactively saves your life if you are willing, like you said, to find the right people who believe in a holistic approach. And I use a lot of baseball analogies, and I would say 5 tool trainers. And if you can hit, but you can't field or play defense, you're not a real baseball player. Just like as a trainer, if you're really good at resistance, but you can't cross-train, talk about cardio, talk about myofascial release and nutrition, you're not a real trainer to me. And I feel like that does a disservice to our industry when people give somebody a one-dimensional program. And I feel like your guys' partnership with us really sets us apart from a lot of other companies. And it gives our staff a resource they can trust. I think that's another thing I want to speak on next is most trainers don't recommend supplements because they don't trust the supplements. Not because they don't trust the idea of supplements. They don't trust the supplements that their company is pushing. And that's something we do not take for granted, that we are able to blindly recommend things because we know we've done enough research with you guys and you guys have done your due diligence that we can trust that process. And Rob, if you can kind of speak to the difference from when you started in the game of as a trainer and in the ground level, what you were able to recommend and what you kind of had to take a step back, and now the difference with the company you guys have and the partnership you have with us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy because I am a little different with this because for me, you said, you were about 12 years old getting started, with that bodybuilder mentor. And I was 12 or 13 when I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Commando. And right then and there, I knew I wanted to be a bodybuilder. And I got every muscle magazine every month, and this is obviously long before the internet, but I never got into supplements, not even through high school or college. I remember one time I had bought a Joe Weider Dynamic Muscle Builder. That was the only time I ever bought a shake. I think it was just a protein shake. It tasted like Bisquick to me. I was seeing results, and obviously I didn't have the education around me to find out like what would I take or need anyway. Those are the cybergenics days and all that kind of stuff. You guys remember that. So I technically never took a supplement until I graduated college and I went to the Apex school. And again, it was so much inundation with science that Neal and his team brought that it was at the time, it had to have been proven for you to have an understanding of why this or that, which is kind of funny because I can only imagine Neal can look back in those days, which is, almost 30 years ago. And I know now he'd be like, gosh, we did this, and this then compared to now what he does as far as research and what we have at our fingertips. But it only just keeps evolving all the time. So that was my first indoctrination into supplementation, was really through Neal and through Apex. And then, of course, I always say as a personal trainer, we have this unspoken creed that I will never give a client an exercise unless I've tried it before. And I don't mean that I have to master the movement to give it to them, because there's some things I'm better at than others. But I say the same thing with nutrition and supplementation. I had to try it out on myself first before I was ever going to give this to a client. And of course I did. And, I saw some great changes. And again, that was back in 95 is when I first got Apex certified, and things have changed dramatically since then, because nowadays with all the third-party testing, and I'll save some of this for Neal because it comes right from the horse's mouth about what we do differently, but from my own personal experience, tremendous. But I will say this, if you don't mind, and Zach, you've heard me say this before, but because I've been doing this now a long time, this is just how I view it, which is a little bit different than maybe people that haven't been in the industry. But I just view the word nutrition, and I just don't care anymore if that means I got it from food, or if I didn't get it from food because it was either my food choice or the quality of the food or the quantity of the food, then I get it in a supplement. But I just want to get the dang nutrition. So like back in the day, and Neal might laugh at this, see if I can make him smile, but I always love when people would say things like, I don't believe in supplements. And a good buddy of ours, Frank Nash, one time said, nope, it's a real thing. It's not the Easter Bunny. They're real. But it's a matter of saying, like, I just want the nutrition. So I don't care anymore how it was delivered. And we've always said since day one, food first. But if you're not getting it from food, don't go without. You know what I mean? Like, there's all this information about what we're lacking in. Don't go without. And nowadays, with the three of us being parents, you know what I mean? How much more does that hit home with our kids? And obviously, we only want the best for our kids. So now it's even like a radar that's going on, So I see it entirely different than when I started.
Well, and my guys, I have an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, 8 and 10 now. And they have a different mindset than we did. And it's nice that I can just build that from a clean slate where it's, like you said, this is our goal. And here are 3 or 4 ways we can get there that are all trusted. And I was talking to Neal, and one of the questions a couple weeks ago was about children. And so my 2 young sons who wrestle and play football and are in soccer, and I had them in jujitsu, are now on a shake and a multi and a fish oil. Like they're getting to where it's part of their day, and their mindset is different now, where it's not, if I do this, then I do this. This is just what we do now. And that trust factor I want to speak on, Neal, if you can kind of dig into that. That's big for me as an ex-athlete, where you were so skeptical to take anything when I played. It was like, hey, you better be careful, because that might have something in it that's not on the label. And you've seen that from some large companies over the past 5 to 10 years.
That's for sure.
And it's been, the trust factor, I think, has been regained from us to you guys, because my team actually trusts the product. And that's, I think, the biggest compliment to you guys, is the trust of people on the ground floor. And if you can kind of speak to your process, Neal, and how you gained that through years and years of testing and your process.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with the fact that we are a research and development company. That's what we are. We are research and development for fitness programming. Fitness is all inclusive. By the way, fitness includes nutrition. Okay, nutrition includes supplementation, or what we call dietary support. Okay, so it's all inclusive. So that's what we do. We build fitness, complete fitness programming. So dietary supplements are a crucial part of that, especially if you want to maintain a lean body, not overweight. So like to Rob's point, you can't just eat all the food you need to get all the vitamins and minerals you need without putting on 300 pounds. So that's going to offset any of that. So obviously in today's world, we live longer. If we all died at 20 or 30, it wouldn't matter. We also have different goals. We compete at a high level in sports, and we do all these things. Well, you can't do that the best you can without some sort of dietary supplementation that complements your food. You can't. It's just, and everybody knows that. 100% of professional athletes supplement. So, I mean, we know that you can. So it's the same thing with anybody, and no one gets everything they need from food. So we have to incorporate dietary supplements into our platform. But to do what we do different, of course, is this. We are evidence-based, which means we fall into a category where we're audited regularly. We produce the documents here that support the formulas and the ratios and the forms of the ingredients that are matched to clinical trials. So like one product, take our multivitamin mineral. It'll have 17 pages of all the clinical reviews around those ingredients and those doses and why they support this, or this, and then there'll be hundreds and hundreds of references to support it. That's just one product. Imagine that all the way across. Then we submit that to a board, a scientific board. They look at it, christen it, and say, okay, so everything, if we make it, it works. It's that simple. And then after we deliver that formula to a manufacturer, okay, here's the right formula to make for let's say a creatine product, or creatine extreme, or a weight loss product or something. Here's the formula. Here's the science behind it that matches the doses to success. So make it this way. When they make it, we don't know they made it right. So we send that out to a third party to get it tested to make sure they made it the way. And they're not going to try to make a mistake to me, because it's going to cost them millions of dollars to redo it. And by the way, that's happened. Okay, so. And then there's the other manufacturers. When you buy in the mass market, see, we're a practitioner product, so we don't sell in the mass market. When you buy in mass channels, whether it be any of your online supplement companies or any of your retailers, whether it be Costco, whether it be Walgreens, whether it be GNCs, they are retailers, and what they have to do is they compete on price. So when you compete on price, the customer doesn't know the proper amount of the ingredients. They're just looking for the name of the product. So they buy something that's underformulated. It's historically, notoriously they're underformulated, which means they don't really work. And then the second part is 50% of all labels are misleading. They don't have the same ingredients. So there's a lot of problems in the mass market. We remove ourselves by being a practitioner product, selling through you, practitioners, college pro sports. I see Rob just put up, some of the teams we have there. We are the largest distributor of dietary supplements and nutrition programs in college and pro sports, NFL, MLB, all of them, NBA. The teams actually buy it for the players, and the players buy it directly from us and for their families as well. So we became very big there because we fourth party test for them, which is NSF certification for sport. To the test for banned substances, it goes past what a normal third party test does. So you can't get any cleaner, and you can't get any more effective than what you're getting, and that's why you're going to pay a couple bucks more than you're going to get in the mass market. Let's face it, because that's what it costs to make a real product. Yep. We don't advertise, as you know, Zach. We don't advertise because, number one, I don't know what you need yet. I want you to go through our practitioners and go through our little screening process, and then we'll tell you what you need, and then you're going to get something that makes a difference. And that's
Well,
what it's all about.
that's a huge point to me, twofold. So number one, the athletic partnerships you guys have spoke more to me just from my background. And I know the rigorous testing that we had, even in the minor leagues, as far as how anxious and stressed we were to take any product from a GNC, a supplement warehouse. Like we were very anxious for that. And this allows a lot of our younger athletes to take a breath and trust that process.
Well, as you know, Zach, I have both my boys are professional athletes.
Yes.
You know, one actually made it to the NFL, and the other one's a fighter.
Well, and I think
violent group. But
that's right. I think that's a huge part that people need to understand is how rigorous that part, even above a normal process is. And you've gained the trust from those organizations, but twofold, the fact that you don't market or have commercials is funny to me because I always loved there was a really funny meme that says, you know who doesn't market? Lamborghini, because they don't have to, because the people who can buy a Lamborghini don't watch TV. And I thought that was great because I thought that was a great meme. And I think
I'm going to steal that.
Right? Like
I like that. I'm going to steal that one.
It's the same thing for you guys. We're not marketing to the masses because we're an individualized program that's based off of a professional assisting you in an accountability program.
And to your Lamborghini point, pros know us.
Yep.
Right. So that's what they're not watching a commercial. In fact, they're told. I'll never forget Nelson's first day when we got on when the Rams signed him. His very first day, the first thing they teach you is stay out of a GNC. Do not go to the mass market. Don't do anything. You're going to be, because they're all drug tested regularly twice a year. Yep. You know, so stay out of those places right there. And, you know, so again, that's the other thing. That otherwise, if we sold in the mass market, we'd be guilty by association.
Yes.
Because that's just the way it goes. So we always
separate yourself, and it's nice to see the separation because it comes from the right mental approach. It's not because we don't believe in this. We just want to be accountable to ourselves and our process. And then we can control every aspect of it, which is where I think the trust comes from, because there isn't an aspect of your guys' business that you don't know every single detail about. So from a professional to professional, it's easy for me to put my trust in that and, talk to my 200 trainers and recommend this. And I think that's, from my perspective as a leader in our company, I think it's such a blessing to not have to, I don't know if I should push this or not, and that's where a lot of guys that I know around the country, they have that problem because they have supplements in their clubs that they have to present to clients, and we get to, and there's a huge difference between getting to and having to.
For sure.
The last part I kind of want to dig into for a couple minutes before we get at her, guys, is kind of a little change in mindset to where when you're looking for employees or your guys' employees, and I kind of want to talk about what we've seen that's lasted as far as a personality trait, as far as employees in the health and wellness industry, what type of background or drive that is needed to be successful in the industry, and some of the things that maybe we've seen over the years where either through colleges or other certifications where they're kind of preaching a misconception about the industry. And I'll start with a couple that I run into on a daily basis is from a trainer's perspective, they can name all the muscles in the body, but they don't know how they work and how they move and talk to people about them. So we've kind of, I think your guys' approach where you kind of change that process through NASM where it's become an all-inclusive program. I don't necessarily want somebody who came out of an exercise science degree, has no personal background in the world, and thinks because they read a book, they know how to personally train. And that's where we're really utilizing our onboarding process and partnerships with you guys to really train people how to do that whole program. Do you guys feel like that used to be a problem is slowly kind of going away? Or do you feel like it's still prevalent quite a bit in some of these companies?
Let Rob talk to that one.
Yeah, I just, I might be a little different with this, especially for what you might think, because I am a total educational geek when it comes time to learning about muscles and how the nervous system works and all that stuff. But after going back into the trenches, I found this out. Again, I know, Zach, you're going to smile when I say this, but like you said, you can name every muscle in the body, but if you can't talk to somebody and make them want to come back and feel comfortable with you, then it's just no good. I know PhDs that, they can't, find their way out of a room, never mind make somebody feel comfortable coming in. And who's typically our personal training clients? We don't get that many professional athletes as personal training clients like in your clubs, right? We're getting a lot of the people that really need the assistance. And one of the barriers that stop them from ever coming in is because they're scared to death, and they're scared of looking stupid. They don't want to be in somebody's way. They want somebody to make them feel like it's all okay. So this is where I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, you guys. And Neal has heard me say this many times since coming back to the company. I look for personality first.
Yes.
I made this stupid little saying, but I always say, I'm looking to hire the hardware because we can download the software. So you got to be open to learning, right? Because I would rather teach you from ground zero on how to build a program and how to administer the program. It's great if you happen to have degrees and certifications, but I'd rather get you fresh personally, just because, you know, I'm just saying out of the experience. So let me find somebody that has these traits. Number one, I've made this mistake before. You got to like working out if you're going to be a fitness professional.
Yep.
I made the mistake and hired people that look the part, and then later found out that they hated working out, and that still oozed over to the client. I've had trainers before that didn't look like what you might associate the perfect trainer to look like. And this was a learning moment for me, because I brought them on, and I had clients come to me and say, literally, thank you for not giving me Barbie or Ken. I like working with this person because they give it their all, but like they're human too. Yes. And that doesn't mean anything to disparage those of you that look like Barbie and Ken, right? There's a lot of great stuff, but that was a learning moment for me years ago, because I was thinking, oh gosh, you know what I mean? Do they always have to look this certain way? But they gotta love working out themselves, and they really have to like working with people and be open to learning. Those are the biggest things, Zach, that I found and I look for now when looking for a trainer. And I'm always recruiting. I don't care, again, if I'm visiting you guys and I found before like a hotel manager with where I was staying that I found was really nice and outgoing. I've been like, hey, I know these great people over at TrueFit, always looking for good people. As long as you're open to learning, we can, again, download the software so you learn how to train somebody, but I would never want that to be a barrier. So that's my long-winded answer.
I think I'm just like you. I've changed over the years where there were certain things were non-negotiable for me. I had to see on paper first before I met you. And now there's three things I look for. Are you humble? Are you hungry? And can I take a car ride with you for 3 hours without shooting myself? Like, you have to be, trainers don't understand that your number one job is to be likable. That is your job. Your job, I don't care how smart you are. If you can't communicate, nobody knows how smart you are. I don't care how good your programs are. If nobody wants to come back again and talk to you, they're not going to get to your third week of your program. So people have to smile and sweat, and people forget that. And I think our job is to, like Neal said, make it where you're addicted to it and you become addicted because you enjoy yourself. Is it going to be awesome all the time? No. Are you going to see results? Absolutely. And we're going to smile along the way. I think people underestimate how intimidating gyms are. If I walked into my street clothes and then somebody walked me around a gym with a clipboard and all I see are gym goggles where I think everybody's in spandex and 2% body fat, that's intimidating. So we have to be able to break those walls down. And I love I'm stealing that, the hire for the hardware, download the software. That's going to be in my new pitch now, where I think for me, I find those people that I think would be good everywhere. Bartenders, servers, like you said, people who can multi-manage, like hotel management, that's right up our alley. If you can deal with people on a daily basis, face to face, and interact and carry 37 small things at once and still present a good face, like you're my type of people. I can teach people the ins and the outs. And like you said, you want that ground level instruction anyway. No matter what degree you walk in with, you're still going to be taught how to be a personal trainer when you get in the club. And I think that's where a lot of people have a mistake. And when I'm speaking to our staff right now that are watching, or people that want to become in the health and fitness world, be well-rounded. My degrees are in political science and criminal justice. I was going to law school and was going to go into the FBI, and I went back and got some grad work in business administration, but all my certs came after that. And I feel like I have a better scope of kind of that personality that is needed to impact people on a daily basis, not look good on a piece of paper. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah. And I think the only thing I would add to that, because I 100% agree, it's personality, communication skills first, because otherwise you got nothing to work with.
Yep.
That's just the start of that. That's just to get in the game. You know, you don't have to have a personality if you sit in front of a computer all day and you're designing software or something, but you do if you're going to be communicating with people and different groups of people. But the other thing that I would add is someone that's going to lead by example.
Yes.
So again, and that's a really big one, because if they lead by example and they're communicative, they relate to people, they will not have to ever sell anything. Mm-hmm. They will assume the sale. It will just come. It will just happen because they do it. The best trainers we had in our clubs for so many years were former clients.
Yes.
And so I got to tell you, that's the only thing I would add. Otherwise, you guys are spot on with everything what I look for and stuff.
I think that's such a great thing by leading by example. And like Rob said, you don't have to look a certain way.
No.
We don't care what you look like. Just live your brand, whatever that is. Live your brand. And like you said, I now am the biggest advocate of your guys' supplements, not because you guys talk to me. I take your supplements. That's why the best trainers are people who have been trained. I think that's a great point, Neal.
Yeah. Walk the talk.
Hey, Zach, can I throw something real fast? I know we're coming to a close, but this was another life lesson that hit me when I went back into the clubs that I'll never forget. And you said it, which was a lot of people are afraid of coming in. And I say this to those members that are out there, or maybe if there's team members that are watching and maybe haven't been exposed to this before. But after being in clubs, getting to know people, getting to know our members, I had some members come back and share with me a few things that after I built pretty good rapport and we knew each other and all that. But I had members tell me that when they came to join, they said they actually came to the club 2 and some told me 3 times before getting the courage to get out of the car and walk to the door. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And they were like, no, I drove to the club. I was gonna come in for a tour, see if this is where I want to join, but they got scared last second and couldn't get out of the car. And some told me again, it was 2, some told me it was the 3rd time. And that just freaks me out because I'm sitting there going, no, like we're here to help, right? And I always laugh because I say, and tell me if you guys agree with me on this, you can find the most in shape person in the club and they're probably more paranoid about what they look like than maybe that member that's scared to death in the club, right? Because we all have our own demons, right? So the people that we think are the Instagram models and everything else, well, they torture themselves in a whole different way. So everybody's in the same boat. But it's like, please don't be afraid. And I actually just read that again on another club's Facebook page that I'm a part of, that a member confided and said, it took me to the 2nd time to walk into the door. So please, I know the folks at True Fit with Zach and Denise and Harry and Justin and Jesse, and we can go on with Jason and all the names that are out there. Everybody out there is just there to help you. There's no shaming. There's no, you have to be a certain thing. We are here to help you get started. There's nothing I think we all enjoy more, and a common connection that we all share is we love to help people. So whether you're coming from a political science background or Neal with a bodybuilding background and mechanic, all these things, we love to help people. So please don't ever sit there in the car thinking, can I do this? We're here to help.
I think that's a thing. We really try to humanize ourselves and let our staff know. So our leaders we make mistakes every day, and we are broken people trying to help other broken people. That's it. And I think when you can bring everybody down to the same level, we're just all on different parts of our own journey, but we're all on the same journey. And I think from, Jesse and Harry on down, we've really preached that to where we try to humanize ourselves and admit fault and apologize and move on, because everybody then understands, oh, they're just people just like us. And we invite everybody into our clubs. And I think I want to reiterate one thing before we kind of put our goodbyes on is we've done a tremendous job to make sure that we are inviting, friendly, clean, organized, and are willing to open up on the 18th the right way and really bring people back into the health and wellness industry, which is needed right now. It's very much needed more than ever before. People like Neal and Rob, guys, are people that have been doing this a long time, and it comes from a real place. And so does it from True Fit. And I just encourage everybody to do your research first. And when you have a club and a company that's very confident, we want you to try other facilities because we know you'll come back to the people who cared. And we don't shy away from competition. But I do want to piggyback on that and just really appreciate that mindset, Rob, because I think we've all been intimidated at some point in our life in some regard. And we know what that feels like, and we'll do our due diligence to make sure that doesn't happen to anybody who wants to make a huge decision to finally get back into the gym. That's such a cool feeling for us. And that's honestly, you know, if you get 1 or 2 of those a month, that's all you need. That's why we're here. And to see those people take that first step is huge. But I did want to just thank you guys very much for your continued education for our staff and for our members and potential members that get on these, and what you've done for our company. From a trust factor and from just, you know, building all-inclusive programs. I would like to give you guys one last goodbye before we get out of here, and then we'll let these people get back to their lives.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to just, good luck on your opening, and it's long needed. I know that, because at the end of the day, people are going to realize that if there's a vaccine for things like this, it's us. It's taking care of your body. The gym is a place that we need to be. That helps keep us motivated as we're there, and we get to socialize with cohorts, and then the nutrition programs and so forth that keep our bodies strong, because nutrition creates our health, creates our bodies, and maintains it, period. All right. So the bottom line is that there's a vaccine to these things, because there's going to be another one later on, and it's going to happen. And then the thing is to stay strong, and you have everything it takes. So
that's awesome.
Your members are lucky.
Thank you, sir. Rob?
Awesome. No, thank you. And great to see so many of you with Matt and Noelle and Denise and Wendy and everybody on there. So just trying to look over on my other screen where I can see our chat. So thank you guys for tuning in. And Zach, thanks for being such a great host. Had a great time. So next week, we'll see you guys again.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much. To everybody that's watching, have a great day. Be safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.